a couple verses. Judges, please, and chapter 5. There's some verses, some phrases that I've come across in my daily reading, and they have sort of spoken to me, and they sometimes slap me. But I just want to pass them on by way of encouragement, by way of a bit of exhortation, perhaps. Just for the backdrop, at least the first part of this chapter, you know, of course, in Judges, that the people of God kept turning their backs on God. They started to worship other gods, the Baals in particular. And so God forsook them, God punished them. And through this particular book, we find different ones as a result of the prayer and the confession of God's people that were sent to rescue them. One of those persons, as we look in this passage, in this particular verse, I'm not going to take time to read the story, but the Lord had raised up Barak. He had also raised up Deborah to be a judge, to be a rescuer. And in one of these occasions, Barak had said to Deborah, "Well, I'll go if you go." And so Deborah agreed. And you can read the story of how they defeated the enemy and how they defeated, in particular, the leader, a man by the name of Sisera, who had a sudden event in his life that ended when he went into jail's tent. And she invited the Israelites in, the commanders, these two. He's in here. And of course, they found him, the tent peg through his temple, pinned to the ground, and the enemy was slain. So this chapter really is a song of thanksgiving, a song of record, if you will. There's a few things that just stood out to me in connection with not just us in our time, but us in general, us in the assembly, those who lead God's people. But look at verse 9. Now this is part of the song, Deborah's song. Verse 9 says, "My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel, who offered themselves willingly among the people." Verse 23, "Then down marched the remnant of the noble. The people of the Lord marched down for me against the mighty." Now, there are particular tribes that are mentioned. I'm just going to look at a couple, but if you go down, verse 15, "The princes of Issachar came with Deborah, and Issachar, faithful to Barak, into the valley they rushed at his heels. Among the clans of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart." The trouble is, it didn't get any further than that. "Why do you sit still among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling for the flocks? Among the clans of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart." What should we do? How are we going to go about this? And it's almost like you see them all sitting there scratching their heads. And that's what they did. Down at verse 17, "Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did he stay with the ships?" Again, "Asher sat still at the coast of the sea, staying by his landings. Zebulun is a people who risked their lives to the death. Naphtali, too, on the heights of the field." 23, verse 23, "Curse Meroz, says the angel of the Lord, curse its inhabitants thoroughly, because they did not come to the help of the Lord, against the mighty." Down into the next chapter, and we read the story of Gideon and all that Gideon did, and how the Lord used him. Let's go down to verse 35, pick up some familiar names. Verse 35, "And he," that is Gideon, "sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, and they too were called out to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Now, Asher had a change of heart. If we go back to what we read earlier, Asher sort of stayed put, didn't do anything, but something happened. Something changed here, change of heart. They sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they went. They went up to meet them. Now, that's all I'm going to read here. Look at just a couple of verses in the New Testament. My comments will be few, and I think as you look at these verses that you'll understand just what has been on my heart. Philippians, please, chapter 1. Philippians chapter 1 and verse 27. Only let your manner of life be worthy of, or be becoming to, the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. Finally, in Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6 and verse number 2. Galatians 6 verse 2. Bear, of course I think we all understand that simply means to carry. Bear one another's burdens. That is a present active tense. And so fulfill the law of Christ. Verse 9. And let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are the household. Now, just a couple of comments on these verses that we have read together. We know that the people of God in general, all the tribes, to a greater or lesser degree that we read about in the book of Judges, they departed from the Lord. And they sinned. We know that. And when they came back to the Lord, one of the very first things they did was they confessed their sin. And they cried to God for help. They cried to God for deliverance. And I'm not sure about you, but when I read Judges, people get it. I mean, how many times, and we didn't read it, but at the end of chapter 6, it says, as soon as Gideon died, they turned back. As soon as he died. So, I don't know. We look at them, or I look at them and think, you scratch your head and just wonder, how can't you get it? But we're no different. And we're just as human as they. It just gives us cause to take note in our own lives. But the reason I read those verses, of course, God had wrought a mighty victory, and all the enemy was slain, including in a very dramatic way, including the leader's sister. It just struck me, though, that there was comments made about those from the nobles, those that were under the nobles, and the people in general who came to help them. Sometimes today, in these days, I know that a lot of times we get discouraged. We hardly know what to do. And we might have a great burden on our heart. And I guess this is one of the things that I was thinking about in relation to what we read about Reuben. They might have had we should really do something. And they considered in their hearts, in this way, they were thinking they were, but never says they actually did it. And in these days, it's very easy for us to do that same kind of a thing. We have an honest, genuine burden about souls, about this community, about the gospel, about difficulties, and I think that for the most part, the best we can, we try to meet some of those needs, but there's still that burden. There's still the enemy. He's not going to go away. And he's going to dog our trail until the Lord takes us away from that. But just the activity that even the tribe of Zebulun, what they did is they actually put their life on the line for the sake of this particular effort in order to destroy the enemy. Naphtali as well. Asher initially didn't seem to do anything, just sat there. Dan sat in his ships. What he thought about. Doesn't matter. He didn't do anything either. Speaking, when I say he, I mean the tribe, the people. Then a little bit later on, and it wasn't very long after that, Gideon was the new judge. After they had followed after the gods, the images, God began to judge again, and Gideon was raised up. And so when Gideon sent out messages this time, Asher responded. Naphtali and Zebulun, they'd been there before, they were there again. They kept that. And Asher responded and joined his brethren in helping against the enemies of God. So when we come to the New Testament, these two passages I read in Philippians chapter 2, Paul says, our lives should become the gospel. That means that it should be an adornment, that it should be part of who we are, and by who we are, by what we do, by what we say. That gospel is uplifted. That gospel is adorned. And Paul says, we're striving together for the faith of the gospel. And so often, because we have been made to be separate in so many ways, so often we miss that. We miss that honor, and just being able to eat a meal together, talk in general. But we can still strive together. We can be of one mind and one heart, striving together for the faith of the gospel. And then it gets real practical in Galatians 6, where Paul says to the Christians there, bear one another's burdens. Now, I don't know all the burdens you have. You don't know all the burdens I have. Whatever they are, I have to can and share and do share some of those burdens. The exhortation is for you and for me to come alongside, help carry, help ease the burden, help ease the load. And then in the verses we read there at the very end, he said, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't be weary in serving, in working, in carrying one another's burdens. And there's a promise. You will be, if you don't give up. Carrying those burdens and administering to people in general, which I'm so thankful for the mind and the attitude in this assembly. It's not just the people of God here, people of God in other places, but the people who aren't the people of God in this community, being able to minister to them. We have no idea the impact that makes. And thank God for the privilege of doing it. So I just hope this will just make us think and encourage us to carry on, because we will reap